Trump is winning again. Here's what real Americans really think of Biden's desperate indictment of Trump. I told you so. I've spent 2.5 years now reporting Democrats get away with murder, while Republicans face life in prison for jaywalking. Does anyone disagree now, after former President Donald Trump's indictment? I spent last week on my TV and radio shows, and in my syndicated newspaper column, reporting that Trump would go up in the polls after his latest criminal indictment. I was right on both counts. Trump is up in the polls. And he faces life in prison for an offense that no one understands, no one cares about, and everyone knows is a bunch of bogus BS and legal mumbo-jumbo. The latest CBS poll, after the latest indictment, puts Trump over 60% in approval, and up by almost 40 points over his nearest GOP rival, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Trump is running away with the GOP presidential nomination. Yes, I'm telling you, Trump's approval rating goes up each time he's indicted. You know why it keeps going up? Because the American people aren't blind, deaf and dumb. We may have been born yesterday, but we weren't born in the past 15 minutes. Let me explain why the American people will never accept any of these charges against Trump, whether technically it's a crime, and he's convicted, or not. I'm a street-smart, common-sense SOB, son of a butcher. I'll always think like my blue-collar father, the butcher. Common-sense average Americans know BS when they see it. This whole case is BS. The media can put all the legal experts they want on TV to explain what a terrible and serious crime Trump has committed. And the average American voter will never care. They will grow angrier and angrier at our own government. Because this doesn't pass the smell test. First, it doesn't affect any of us. Trump didn't hurt one American by mishandling a bunch of papers. How does that hurt me? How does that affect my life? It doesn't. Second, I believe Trump himself didn't benefit, didn't sell the papers and didn't show them to foreign enemies. They were left in boxes in his basement and bathroom shower, according to the fake news media. So, who cares? Third, everyone does it. Former President Barack Obama allegedly has millions of pages of classified documents in his Obama presidential library that he never returned. We've all seen the classified docs on the floor of President Joe Biden's garage. Even Mike Pence had classified docs. I'll bet every single U.S. senator does too. This is a ridiculous waste of time. Fourth, everyone can see the new Democrat motto is, if you can't beat M, jail M. This is about one thing, stopping Trump from running for president, because Democrats are scared to death he will beat them, even with rigged elections. Fifth, I believe Biden has committed treason. He sold out the American people. He sold us all down the river. He extorted tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions, of dollars in bribes from foreign countries and companies as vice president. Compared to that, who cares about a bunch of papers in a box at Trump's home? No one. Indicting Trump is a weapon of mass distraction to hide Biden's serious crimes from the headlines. The best and simplest way to explain how average Americans see this is: your neighbor in the home on the right committed murder. Yet no one has arrested him. Your neighbor in the home on the left is a pedophile. Yet no one has arrested him. Your neighbor in the home directly across the street has committed a $100 million Ponzi scheme. Yet no one has arrested him. But you recently drove 66 miles per hour in a 65 miles per hour zone, and a heavily armed FBI SWAT team just invaded your home to take you away in handcuffs and leg irons in front of your kids to a maximum security prison for murderers. Make sense to you? Does this make sense to anyone, anywhere? It only makes sense if you understand this is a communist takeover of the United States. These are the things communist tyrants do. Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Pol Pot and Fidel Castro would all be proud. The American people can see the difference between what's legal in a courtroom and what actually matters. Trump holding government documents in his home as a former president doesn't matter to anyone except insane, obsessed Democrats with Trump derangement syndrome. It's tantamount to being arrested for driving 66 miles per hour in a 65 miles per hour zone. It's like getting life in prison for jaywalking. It's like being a parent demanding an end to critical race theory and transgender brainwashing of your children at a PTA meeting, and Attorney General Merrick Garland sends his FBI Gestapo to arrest you. That already happened, folks. This is a communist thug takeover of the USA. No one with a brain is listening to so-called legal experts on TV telling us how this is a crime. If it's a crime, it's a meaningless, victimless crime. It's a load of horse manure. And we don't care. But the opponents of Trump have no clue how butchers, bakers or candlestick makers out here in the real world think. All of these ridiculous, bogus, hyped up by the media indictments will push more and more average working Joes and Janes into Trump's camp. You're making Trump a martyr. Because common sense tells them if this man Trump is so hated by the whole government, the whole DC swamp, the whole deep state, the whole legal system, the whole DOJ and FBI, the whole mainstream media, the whole Ivy League elite. If he's such a threat to these control-freak tyrants and fascists who want to kill free speech and rule our lives. If these creeps and criminals and scumbags are desperate enough to turn jaywalking into a serious crime and try to put Trump in prison for life, then Trump must be doing something right. He must really have the goods on these creeps. He must be the guy wearing the white hat. He must be on our side. He must be our hero. And their final common sense conclusion has to be that we all need to make this Trump guy president again in 2024 to see what all these evil, power-hungry, control-freak psychopaths are so afraid of. And to watch Trump turn the tables and arrest them all for treason. Break out the popcorn. This is gonna be fun. Trump is winning again. Here's what real Americans really think of Biden's desperate indictment of Trump. I told you so. I've spent 2.5 years now reporting Democrats get away with murder, while Republicans face life in prison for jaywalking. Does anyone disagree now, after former President Donald Trump's indictment? I spent last week on my TV and radio shows, and in my syndicated newspaper column, reporting that the brutal beauty of Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. The Western by the author who died Tuesday perfectly encapsulates his trademarks, riveting prose, unflinching portrayals of violence and all too human reckonings with mortality. It took Cormac McCarthy a decade to write Blood Meridian. Mr. McCarthy, who died at age 89 on Tuesday, pursued this bleak Western with the same obsessiveness that he did all his writing, moving to the American Southwest in the mid-70s to aid his research and enduring poverty to dedicate time to his art, a burden that would be eased thanks to a 1981 MacArthur Fellowship. When the novel was published 4 years later, it was notably his first to be set in the West and, even for Mr. McCarthy, who had already put out